Hey, what on earth is going on with hip-hop at the moment? This is going to be insane. It's not simply a rap feud or a courtroom drama. You're not prepared for this one, I assure you. Word just broke. The entire basis of the King Von murder case is being rocked by shocking new reports that claim the FBI has caught Lil Durk on Wiretap. This could be the most significant development in hip-hop lore since Suge Knight and that white Bronco. Now listen to this. Private audio that was purportedly taped months ago was aired in public court, and you guys, that courtroom's gasps, deafening. According to insiders, the judge had to physically halt the proceedings because the room became tense. People are crying, whispering, and Durk's legal team appears to have seen a ghost. What did Durk say on that wire? That's the true kicker. It might have implicated someone fans never anticipated. So it wasn't just about Von. The blogs on fire in the streets are talking about the name that was dropped. We discuss betrayal, hidden truths, and a potential cover-up that has the potential to destroy all OTF has worked so hard to achieve. Stay put, this narrative becomes crazy. It began as a typical Tuesday morning in Chicago. As usual, the internet is scrolling, traffic is humming, and the sun is peeking through the blinds. But at 9:37 a.m., phones began exploding with the single sentence, "Lil Durk wiretap audio just got played in court," which paralyzed the streets. People don't trust it at first. They believed it to be clickbait. But then, all of a sudden, credible media began covering it. It was confirmed by court insiders. In addition to being captured on film by FBI surveillance, Lil Durk's purported remarks on the tape made even his closest fans shudder. All of this has to do with the current re-examination of King Von's purported involvement in the 2020 murder of FBG Duck. With fresh witnesses, fresh evidence, and apparently secret recordings that no one anticipated, the feds had revived the case, and Durk was unaware of what was going to happen to him when he entered the courthouse in a grey, well-tailored suit. They claim that Durk's entire tone changed when the prosecution declared, "Your Honor, we have recently obtained audio material that is crucial to this case." His eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. You could sense the anxiety rising when his lawyer whispered something in his ear. The device went off when the court permitted the audio to be played. On the tape, the voice was overly clear. Durk's voice, composed, thoughtful, but saying something that caused the entire courtroom to gasp. The speaker reportedly said, "I told Von to chill, but he wasn't trying to hear it," according to witnesses. "Before I even landed, the crisis with Duck was already underway. He was on demon time, even if I tried to slow things down. It seemed as though a ghost had entered the space." People in the gallery had their lips shut. Von's mother, who was in the second row, began to cry. She wasn't alone. Some individuals who were close to Durk and Von were clearly shaken, and the most outrageous aspect, Durk never denied that he was on the recording. The judge summoned a recess right away. The prosecution already had the metadata, timestamps, and location pings, and they all matched when Durk's attorneys requested more time to authenticate the audio. Chaos broke out outside the courtroom. Supporters assembled, reporters rushed, social media took off. Within an hour, the hashtags #Durk Wiretap and Free Von became popular. People wanted to know what Durk meant when he said, "already in motion." Was he implying that Von acted by himself? Was he confessing that he knew the transfer was coming? Or was he attempting to put space between himself from the situation? The tension within the court building was intolerable. Stone-faced but with twitchy fingers, Durk sat with his legal team. "This ain't looking good," his cousin's little mister muttered to a local source after arriving late to court. Not at all. However, it wasn't even the most startling aspect. The prosecution revealed yet another surprise after the break. They disclosed that Durk had been secretly monitored for more than 9 months. And the FBI apparently taped several conversations during that period in which Durk talked about cleaning, up loose ends, and protecting the circle. The court transcripts were not released to the public, but one line, "If he folds, we all go down," leaked minutes later. You are aware of what that implies. Fans began speculating right away. Who was he? Did Durk mention one of the other defendants? Or perhaps someone in the inner circle was becoming unsteady? Social media became a section for investigations. In an attempt to connect Durk's remarks with historical occurrences, fans retrieved old IG Lives, YouTube videos, and even interviews. People began to piece things together. Perhaps Von or Duck weren't the only subjects of this wiretap. This might have been larger. Perhaps the federal authorities had been waiting to connect Durk to a whole network. Durk's team, meanwhile, went into full damage control back in the courtroom. According to his attorney, Durk was speaking theoretically rather than confessing, and the recording was taken out of context. They claimed that the wiretap was unlawful and filed a move to suppress the material. However, the judge didn't like it. He declared the audio to be admissible and scheduled a time for the jury to view the entire recording. At that point, everything truly began to spin out of control. Following the hearing, King Von's sister, Kayla B., revealed a bombshell on Twitter. "No, so you knew all along and let him crash out," she tweeted. "Say less." That tweet alone set up a full-scale online conflict between Von loyalists and OTF fans. Kayla eventually took down the tweet, but not before it was widely circulated and screenshotted. The family was split apart. "We always had love for Durk," Von's uncle said on a local podcast. "Always. But he must answer for that if what we heard today is accurate. You don't just sit there with your knowledge and say nothing." Tensions began to rise once more in Chicago. People who had previously ridden for OTF began posting mysterious notes. According to insiders, there was a distinct vibe in the OTF camp, as if people weren't sure who to believe. You could feel it in the air, everybody moving cautiously, according to one insider. However, this is where the twist became even more complicated. There was a fresh witness, someone no one anticipated. Allegedly a former OTF affiliate who had vanished from sight for years. Court sources referred to him as the Ghost, and when the feds brought him into the courtroom, everyone jumped up in astonishment. His name hasn't been made public yet. It was anticipated that this ghost would testify that Durk not only knew about the hit on Duck, but also allegedly attempted to clean up the aftermath by pressuring individuals to keep quiet. And you know what? According to the Ghost, he also had recordings. Thus, in addition to the initial wiretap, a second wave of possible audio is set to emerge, and it's not only Durk's voice this time. Names will soon be revealed, names that fans didn't anticipate. Durk glanced straight at the prosecution table, then at the judge, and finally back at the audience just before the court day finished. Then he responded, "I tried to protect everybody," in a voice that was hardly audible above a whisper. However, you don't see the big picture. He was pulled back by his lawyer, who advised him to keep silent, but the harm had already been done. People outside of speculating were enraged by that single sentence. Did Durk take Von's place? Was he aware of the hit and attempted to prevent it? Or is this all part of a larger plot with someone attempting to undermine him from within? This was only the first day of the wiretap repercussions. Whatever it is, things were about to go completely out of control with additional recordings, more witnesses, and a potential betrayal from inside the OTFF camp. The excitement continued beyond the courthouse steps as the day's proceedings came to an end. YouTubers turned on their cameras, websites went into overdrive, and theories were flying through the air in Chicago. Some said that Durk was the true victim, while others believed that he had just committed the largest betrayal in hip-hop history since the East-West Coast era. But Durk wasn't even the most important question. It has to do with the Ghost. Who was he? For what duration had he been observing from the shadows? And more crucially, why now? The court was jam-packed the following morning. There has been a line outside since 5 a.m. They were hoping to see this ghost in person, but people's jaws dropped when he entered, led by US Marshals, and wore a black hoodie low over his face. Some recognized him right away. Reese Montana, a former OTF affiliate who disappeared in 2021 when snitching suspicions began to circulate, was the ghost. Some claimed he moved to Vegas, while others believed he escaped to Atlanta. But as it happens, he had flipped and didn't. Simply flip. He had been collaborating with the federal government the entire time. The room fell hushed as Reese took the stand. Durk didn't even blink. Despite being calm, Reese's voice was sharp as a knife. He started, "I wasn't going to say nothing, but when they indicated Vonn was acting alone, no, I couldn't tolerate that. Not when I am aware of the reality," he informed the court that tension meetings were already taking place in late 2019, long before Duck was murdered. He asserted that, especially around 63rd, Durk, Vonn, and a few other unidentified OTFF members were talking strategy about competing operations. According to Reese, they had social media data, screenshots, and maps, like a war table. "I was present in the room." Reese claims that Vonn didn't relocate without permission. Yes, he was crazy, but he had respect for Durk. Vonn would chill if Durk said so, until someone informed him otherwise in private. That statement was like a grenade to the courtroom. Vonn's family sat motionless and refrained from crying. The judge permitted Reese to continue under the Special Witness Protection Clause, despite Durk's attorney objecting, claiming the testimony was hearsay. Reese revealed considerably more information. He claimed that Durk called one of his security directors the day after Duck was killed and asked, "We clean or we have leaks?" Durk said, "Handle it quiet." When he was told, "One dude shaky," Reese merely replied, "Yes," when asked if he had any recordings of that talk. The courtroom exploded. Once more, whispers, gasps, and even a few people in the back being hauled out for yelling. Durk remained seated, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Although his face was expressionless, you could see his jaw twitch. Kayla B. exited early from the courtroom. She declined to respond to inquiries from the journalists, clearly shaken. Later that night, she wrote, "Everyone got a role to play," in an Instagram story that has since been removed. Some people engage in dirty play. That went viral on the internet. However, this subsequent twist, no one noticed coming. A significant Chicago blog received a leaked mystery direct message the same evening. Months prior to Duck's demise, it was purportedly between Durk and Vonn. Vonn tells Durk in it, "If I get locked, this is going to fall on you. They're going to assume you're manipulating them," Durk replies. "Just make sure you move smart. I'll take care of the rest." The supporters were divided. Some claimed it was phony. Others noted that the tone and jargon precisely matched the writing style they were familiar with. And all of a sudden, a brand new theory surfaced. What if Durk was genuinely attempting to protect Vonn, but ultimately took on more blame than he merited? However, not everyone had such belief. The prosecution presented a surprise motion on the third day of the hearing. They had gotten hold of Durk's 2020 encrypted group chat, in which several messages discussed timelines, routes, and confirmations. One purportedly Durk post said, "We ain't pulling triggers, we just pulling chess, moves, allow the pawns to move." Fans were inconsolable after reading that message alone. In an attempt to understand what chess moves actually meant, blogs went berserk. According to Durk's attorney, it was lyrics. He claimed to be a rapper. Metaphors cannot be criminalized. However, the prosecution contended that Durk concealed his actual planning under music, and that's not even the most outrageous aspect. A member of Vonn's inner circle, whom people had not heard from since Vonn's death, entered the courtroom halfway through the session. The doll was Asian. People became numb, even though she wasn't named. On the witness sheet, the trial was affected by her appearance. When she entered, Durk looked up, and for the first time, he appeared anxious. Asian was seated behind Vonn's family, staring at Durk with folded arms. She only tweeted once later that day, "I told y'all." This is not how it seemed. The crowd became fervent. Some claimed that Asians held confidential information. Others believed she was merely there to provide assistance. However, court officials disclosed that she was supposed to speak to the prosecution off the record. Then there was another bomb. According to Reese, who was still on the stand, there was one more tape. It wasn't from him, though. "The most important tape ain't mine," he said. "It's hers," he said, gesturing to an Asian doll. Word quickly spread, but the court ended shortly after. Was there a recording of Asian doll that would have shown Durk gave the order? Or was it something she was sitting on to cleanse his name? In any case, she had become the new focal point. "Look, we all want justice," said Track Von's cousin, in a speech outside the courthouse. However, after years of silence, if individuals begin to flip the script suddenly, whose side were they truly on all along? Durk's team hurried back to the hotel. According to insiders, Durk, his attorney, and two unidentified business executives met behind closed doors that evening. Specifically, should Durk accept a deal? How much would he have to sacrifice if that were the case? Durk wasn't folding, though. Not yet. "I'm not going down for this," were apparently his final remarks before the meeting adjourned. "I didn't sign up to be blamed for anything." Chicago felt different the following morning. Gloomy and tight, as if the city itself knew something significant was going to occur. In that federal courthouse too? It felt like entering a battlefield. Fans, bloggers, local artists, and members of the media crowded the benches, all of them staring at the Asian doll. Even though she was wearing all black and had on glasses, you could sense the weight of her presence. Durk avoided looking at her. He sat motionless while his staff whispered and flipped through documents. The judge addressed the unspoken issue when the court reconvened. He verified that Asian doll had turned in private correspondence data, which included a voice message from a third party, a single audio file, and a string of messages purportedly exchanged between her and King Von. The OTF inner circle is closely associated with an unknown individual. Asian just responded, "I was scared," when questioned why she had kept the information hidden for so long, "and I was faithful." However, she asserted that too many lies have been told. As the prosecution aired a brief clip, the courtroom leaned in. A voice note was heard. Man voice, silent but unambiguous. "Keep it off social media," Durk said. "If it comes back to haunt him, he knows it will look horrible." Instructed Von to handle it silently. "Don't mention me, don't tag me." Von wasn't the voice. Durk wasn't it. Booker 600 was the amount. A pin could have dropped. For years, Booker had been riding for Durk, never left his side. However, his voice was now being broadcast in court, directly connecting to directives Von received. Before the duck issue even arose, Durk's eyes briefly closed, but it was the first time he had displayed emotion since Reese took the stand. Within an hour, Booker's team issued a statement disputing the tape's authenticity and claiming it was spliced, edited, and taken out of context. They also asserted that Booker was discussing music promotion rather than illegal activity. However, the prosecution didn't believe it. They claimed to have metadata and timestamps that connected the message to a known meeting between Durk, Von, and two other OTF affiliates that took place just 2 days prior to Duck's shooting. The bloggers went berserk outside the court. Durk exposed, and Punk's Booker tape became popular. All day long, fans quarreled. Booker was allegedly setting up. Some people thought he was unaware that he was being filmed. Some even asserted that Asians had been sitting on this tape like a trump card, in anticipation of the appropriate time to use it. And then something else happened. Asian Doll never said it aloud, but something significant was disclosed in court documents that were leaked that same day. She had given the federal government access to her whole cloud archive. Audio, recordings, strands of text, ancient snap messages, even unreleased recordings of her conversations with Von during their most tumultuous months together. And one conversation caught our attention. Von apparently said to Asian, "I ain't gonna lie," in it. Durk understood what time it was, but he urged me to fall back. He was aware of the outcome. "They will move on me first if I don't move. I'm simply outdoing them." Just that quote had folks in a frenzy. Did Durk try to defuse the situation? Or did he give Von room to do the tasks at hand? Durk's staff was frantically working behind the scenes in the meanwhile, a possible cooperation arrangement that may lower sentencing if Durk provided information on higher-level operations is being examined in private, according to court insiders. A plea is not yet being considered. Durk, however, wasn't going that way. Not yet, anyhow. Actually, Durk broke his silence that same evening. Durk shared a brief video, black screen with only voiceover, on his private, close friend's story. Being loyal will kill you sooner than your adversaries. And quiet? The loudest scream in the entire game is that one. Fans knew what that meant. He wasn't simply talking about the case. He was talking about Buka, about Reese, possibly even in the direction of Asians. But when everyone's attention was focused on Durk, the feds had another trick up their sleeves. Suddenly, they dropped a subpoena. Memorandum 600 called for the stand. The memo had been drifting away from OTFF for a while. Months earlier, his feud with Durk had already been widely reported, complete, with a full-fledged diss track that was never released, questionable live comments, and subliminals delivered on Twitter. Therefore, when he arrived in court, many thought he was going to ruin everything. But the memo stunned everyone. He proclaimed, "I'm not here to snitch, to get my name cleaned. I'm here." The document claimed that Durk was a puppet master who made sure that others performed the menial work and never pulled triggers or spoke directly. He said the tiers included full workers, cleanup crews, rappers, and shooters, was part of an insulating system that Durk was part of. Then he made the most shocking statement of the day. "There's another tape. Not from Reese, not by me. It's from a girl Durk used to make fun of. And it proves that he knew about Duck before it happened." The prosecution did not deny it. They confirmed that Durk allegedly said, "It's already in motion. If it happens, it does," during a private chat with a female associate on a burner phone. "We're going to ride it out as normal." Immediately, fans started making assumptions. The girl was who? India, some say. It was a lesser-known ex who hadn't communicated since 2021, according to certain conjectures. Anyway, this call was real, and the fact that it was now being confirmed indicated that things were quickly spiraling out of hand. On Facebook Live that night, Von's mother raised her voice. "All I ever wanted was the truth," she continued, as she started crying. "When I saw my baby die, they told it was street rubbish. I was unaware that all of this was happening. If you knew what was going to happen, why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you alert him?" Her live broadcast went viral, and for the first time, fans weren't picking sides based on devotion or music. They were just angry. Rap was no longer the sole subject of conversation. This dealt with real people, real losses, and real consequences, and when it didn't seem possible for things to go any worse. In court documents, another name was made public. An unnamed A-list Atlanta producer was also on the Fed's watch list for allegedly participating in money laundering activities connected to OTF operations. The conversation had expanded beyond Von and Duck. This was developing into a legitimate Rico Tyson Durk. He was at the core of the storm. As the sun rose over downtown Chicago, there were already rumors that someone inside OTF had flipped overnight. The court's insiders were humming. An individual who was close to Durk and had known him since the early days of Mixtape reportedly agreed to testify. When court opened, the gallery was packed more than before. The level of security was doubled. Every phone was confiscated. The press is not allowed. Then it was announced that it was called THF Zoo. People couldn't believe it. The zoo had been in the trenches with Durk, always in the front row of shows and in the background of people's lives. We thought this was more than just an associate. It was blood. At last, Durk answered, coming in with his chains off and his head down. His face darkened. He looked to his lawyer and shook his head slowly. He seemed to be hurting. There was a sense in the air that betrayal is not limited to foes. Sometimes the folks you shared bread with can provide it to you. Zoo sat on the stand with his gaze forward and his voice low. He didn't even look at Durk. "I won't take responsibility for stuff I didn't touch," he said, adding, "I'm not here to lie. I'm not here to be mean to anyone." "We all knew what was coming," he added, leaving everyone stunned. Everybody in OTF. The streets have been hot. Von did really make his choices. But the green light, the energy, came from above, and everyone knew who that individual was. The courtroom fell silent in surprise. The prosecutor bent in closer. "When you say the top, who is that particular person?" the lawyer said. Zoo made a snap decision. Loud Durk cries, and others even shouted, "No!" from behind. The judge had to strike the gavel many times to get the situation under control. Zoo wasn't done though. He claimed to have been present at least 3 sessions where the subject of revenge methods was discussed, and that despite Durk's constant use of coded language and his meticulous hand hygiene, the message was clear. "Ain't nobody safe who try to play boss from the other side," was one comment that got my notice. "We show them how real bosses act." The zoo claimed that was Durk a few days prior to Duck's death, but then the zoo made the most startling disclosure. He gave his okay, and after it was taken down, he made us switch phones, turn out the lights, and temporarily disappear. "Durk didn't just know," he added. There were tears in the courtroom. Von's sister reportedly fled. Durk's lawyer immediately objected, saying it was all hearsay and retaliation, but the damage was done, and it was essential to stop Durk's cousin from shouting at the zoo, and outside, fans were going nuts. Online comments were full of anger, sadness, and miscommunication. Some people still thought Durk was being set up, while others finally faced their long-held fear that the joyful rapper with the #1 hits had a much darker past than he had disclosed. But Durk had never said a word in spite of all. Thus far. After the judge adjourned the session, Durk's legal team requested a special motion that would enable their client to address the court directly. It was odd, yet it was granted. When Durk stood up, walked to the center, and turned to face the courtroom, it seemed as if everything had stopped. He looked around, first at Von's mom, then at the zoo, and finally at the judge. Then he made a statement. "I lost my brother," he added. "King Von was more than just a rapper to me. He was a part of my family. We both came from nothing, and we were brought up on revenge rather than guidance." He paused. "Though I haven't pulled the trigger yet, I'm not stopping anything either, so I'll carry it for that." I implored him to calm down and to slow down. But when did the streets get involved? It was too late. People couldn't believe it. He was not confessing, but he was also recognizing his part in the civilization that produced all of this. "The truth is that I waited too long," Durk continued, adding that he created companies and jobs. "I tried to change the cycle. Finally," he said, "if I walk down, I just hope it's not for nothing," she said, shocking everyone in the room. He returned to his seat. Zoo's eyes were on the ground. Von's mother was seen crying, and even the prosecution appeared surprised. The judge postponed the case for the day, but said a ruling will be made in a week. And just when it seemed like this was the final twist, there was another leak on the blogs that evening. An email or a scanned document, sealed federal indictment, not only for Durk, but for 6 other industry names, including 2 producers, a business manager, and an unexpected Atlantan. Even though the identities were temporarily deleted, fans started to connect. This was a long-running RICO case that was only now beginning to come together, and Von and Duck were no longer the sole subjects of talk. And Durk, maybe he was just the first domino. There was quiet in Chicago. No posts, no statements. Only one tale was posted on the OTF Instagram. An entirely dark screen. 3 words: never put your confidence in anyone. Here we are, everyone. After days of trial chaos, leaked wiretaps, unexpected witnesses, and devastating revelations, the King Von Casey has officially taken a turn no one expected. Little Durk, once thought to be the voice of the streets, is now involved in a legal battle that could completely upend the current rap landscape. From the zoo leaving behind a